As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
All right, hey everyone, welcome into another episode of the Sleeping with the Numbers podcast. Dylan here, 3 weeks in the book, 3 weeks of being profitable. It is, I'm trying not to let it go to my head a little bit. It's a little difficult, but we are doing pretty well. I'm waiting for the shoe to fall and for me to look like a dummy. But so far, through 3 weeks, we are having a great time. So if you have been following along, congrats on all of your profit. It's been a good run so far with myself and with the model. We will go over all of those. But first, we'll kick it off with the free DFS lineup I shared for this week. Finally, and I don't want to sound too happy about this, but we've been having too much luck almost. It felt weird. But this lineup did not cash. We just missed the line. I ended up with 162.78 points for this lineup. That lineup being Kirk Cousins, Travis Etienne, Jahmyr Gibbs, Justin Jefferson, Mike Williams, KJ Osborne, David Njoku, Tank Dell, and the Broncos defense. So with that, obviously the big storyline is the Dolphins putting up 70 points and Mostert and Achane going off the rails. If you did not have either of them in your lineup, it is you probably didn't crack the top 5, top 1%. You can cash without them. I had a few lineups that did that, but if you wanted to be in that top 1%, maybe even top 10, you needed one of those boys in your lineup. This is also a week where the chalk hit. We knew the Chargers-Minnesota game was going to be high scoring. Everyone in the world knew that. Everyone in the world played pieces in that game. And, if you played to try and get a little different, it didn't work out for you. You needed to have those stacks as well, a Minnesota stack, Chargers stack, one of those stacks. And that would have obviously boosted your team along with the rest of the entries in there. And then, of course, with the other pieces, that's where you had to get different. Obviously, the Mostert, Achane exposures are the ones that were pretty low. Let's see just where they were. So if you had Mostert was in 17.3% of lineups. So that's pretty surprising there. Where is Achane? He had to be lower than that. Let's just sort by points. Oh my. 0.3% of lineups. This is using the $1 first down, low barrier to entry contest. That's why we use it. But yeah, Devon Achane, only 0.3% owned across the board. And because of that, only 2.1% of the top 1% had him. It was Mostert that was the one you had to have, even though he had a lower... I'm sorry, I'm saying this wrong. You didn't have to have him, but more people did have Mostert, and that's why more of him showed up in the top 1%. 66.7% of the top 1% had Raheem Mostert, which is absolutely wild. I don't know the last time we had such a high ownership in the top 1%, but we had 3 players. One of them's a defense, so I don't know if that counts as a single player. 3 players, I'm just saying that, over 60% owned in the top 1%. Number 1 being Keenan Allen, 67.5% owned. Number 2, Raheem Mostert, 66.7%, like I said. And the Buffalo defense, 62.2% owned. Somehow, they were below $3K in their pricing, only $2,900, and they put up 32 points. 13.3% of all entries had the Buffalo defense. And then the cheap guy, Tank Dell, put up 28.5 points. Half of the top 1% had him. 20.4% of all entries had him. He's looking good. But we look forward to next week. Currently, we're 2-1 with the free lineups I give out. Not terrible. We're 3 weeks in. We're going to keep it going. We're looking for that big win. For the bets this week, we made a profit of 14.2 units. Again, I am using units as my unit of measurement here. Everyone's unit is that sounds so funny to say. I laugh every time. Everyone's unit is different in the terms of dollars that they use. Some people have a dollar unit. Some people have 10, 20, 100. It all depends on your bankroll and what you are able to comfortably bet. For myself, I'm betting $10 as my unit, mostly because I'm making a lot of bets here. I am betting everything that the model picks, just blindly. Like I said, that's kind of the big part of the show, is creating a model that I can just throw money at and have it be profitable. And then I'm taking $10 on my bets as well, which are, they don't count for as many as the model for the most part, but those have been doing well too. So if we look for our cumulative profit loss, we are up 36.2 units. So for myself, that's $362. Depending on your unit, do that math. You take your dollar in terms of units and multiply it by that profit loss. That is, of course, if you have tailed every single bet we have made, which you can find on our website, sleepingwiththenumbers.com/bets. Breaking it down a bit further by bet type on the money line. So this is going to include both myself and the model. For the most part, it is just the model. The only time I'm really doing different money line bets here, or extra money line bets, is when I don't necessarily agree with the model and I want to hedge. That can work out, that cannot. But for the overall, for both of us, we're at a 59.574% win rate with a profit of 19.6 units. So the mass amount of our profit has come from these money line bets. Reason being, the model is making some wild picks and we are hitting on them. So the model had the Colts, the model had Houston, and the biggest shocker of all, the model had the Cardinals beating Dallas at plus 550. So those returns have been absolutely fantastic. It's really about managing your risk and finding those edges, like I've talked about multiple times on this show. If the pricing that the sportsbook gives doesn't match what our model predicts the win probability to be versus the implied probability, that is considered an edge. We are taking that bet. So that's how the model works. Yet again, check out the first episode for this week for more info on how the model works, and go from there. I'm not going to go into it in full detail here, as I've already done it in previous episodes. So solid there on the money line. For the spread, this is not going to last. I have been very lucky with this spread, with a win rate on my bets of 73.913%. That is extremely high. Expect that to come down. Hopefully the profit stays up, but the win rate itself should come down. I'm just being honest. I'm not going to try to sell you guys any nonsense that I myself don't believe. I'm the best sports bettor in the world. It's not true. I think I do a lot of good research, and I supply that to you guys. And I only make the bets I am confident in. And that seems to be working here this season. But it's a long season. We're only 3 weeks in. We have a decent amount to go. Hopefully it stays. Before the spread, up 9.63 units. Over under, similar deal. It is me making these bets. I have a win rate of 62.162% and a profit of 6.97 units. So overall, for all of these bets that we have taken here at Sleeping with the Numbers, we're at a win rate of 63.551%. And like I said, up 36.2 units so far. And another metric I just added here on the website, one I probably should have added at the beginning, I don't know why I didn't think about it to start, but return on investment, ROI. So that's the amount of money I put in along with the profit. Do the calculation, get the return on investment. It's essentially money invested minus money earned or lost over... No, I said that backwards. It is total money won minus money invested divided by money invested. That is the calculation for percent change or return on investment. They're both the same. And then to break it down in the man versus machine section, myself versus the model, we're not really competing here. We're one of the same. We make up sleeping with the numbers. We are helping each other out. But just for funsies, we are separating the two. Myself, I have a 69.118% win rate on all of my bets with a profit of 21.25 units. That's a return on investment, ROI, of 31.25%. The model has a win rate of 53.846%, but remember, it's making longer shot bets here. So, win rate, that's not what we care about. We want profit. We want a return on investment. So the profit for the model is 14.95 units, and that brings it to a return on investment of 38.33%. So model has a greater return on investment than I do. And the reason being, I am making a lot more bets here. So even though my win rate is higher, I said that backwards. Cut that. So even though my win rate is higher, along with my profit loss, my return on investment is lower than the models. The reason being, the picks that are just mine, those are generally, the spread, the over-under, those are always going to be in like the maybe even money if you're lucky, but for the most part, it's minus 110 on the money line. For the American odds, I shouldn't call it the money line, but it is minus 110 for the American odds, usually for the spread and the over-under. It can be a little different depending on where you bet. Whereas the model, its win rate is way lower, but it's betting on the money line where the odds can be much higher. Arizona Cardinals plus 550. You bet one unit, you win 5.5. So that return on investment is way higher because of that, the odds being longer. So again, we don't really care about the win rate. It's a nice stat to kind of throw around. It's like, yeah, I'm right 99% of the time, but I made $1. I'd rather be right half of the time and up $100. You really need to put it in through that lens. So like when you're watching people, ESPN, all those other big networks, they might be focused more on just being correct. They're not really putting a money unit on it. And in the end, that's what you care about. Did you make money or lose money? I don't care how many times I was right or wrong. I want to know if I made money. And that's, again, it's a different kind of mindset of sports betting. And honestly, when I started sports betting, I didn't think like this at all. I'm just like, yeah, this is more likely to happen. I'll bet on that one because that's what should happen. That's what I think will happen. In the long run, in the very long run, you're always going to lose money. That's just how it works. But in the longer run than the short run, you want to take those calculated risks. You want to find those edges like the model is doing, and that's where you want to put your money. And the win rate might not be very high, but the profit may be. And more importantly, the ROI. So that's what I go for here on this show. You might see people that are like, oh, you're so wrong. You're just making these crazy underdog bets and everything, and you're not wrong. That is what we're doing. But when they hit, they cover so much of what we bet. So, if that one bet that we won on the Arizona Cardinals, that's going to cover 5 other bets that we can lose, and we would still make, half a unit of profit. So just, keep that in mind when you are sports betting. That's really what matters. I don't care how often you're right. I want to make money. So with that said, let's get it going here and start looking at what the model has to say for week 4 in the NFL. Let's see here. So Thursday night football, we get a divisional matchup. The 2-1 Lions take on the 2-1 Packers. I was a little surprised at these odds here. At least to begin with, the Packers are the dogs in this game at home. It is very close, almost dead even, but Packers are 1.5 home underdogs. On the money line, I'm gonna stop reading what Pro Football Focus has, because I think I've said it 3 shows in a row now. I don't know where they pull their betting odds from. So instead, I'm going to use the script that I wrote that finds the best odds. And if you want the best odds and don't want to check every single sportsbook, just go to our website, sleepingwitthenumbers.com. There's a tab called Best Odds, and it will show you where to get the best odds for each game for each team. Really quick, easy way of doing that. I don't have links to the websites or anything, but it tells you where to go. Who knows? Maybe that'll be a next iteration. We can get links going to these things. Anyways, the Lions versus the Packers, divisional matchup. The Lions are -120 away favorites at the moment for the best odds. Best odds for the Packers you can get at +112. The model likes Detroit to win and has found an edge for the Lions. It is giving Detroit a 91.987% win probability, which at a money line of -120 gives a 37.442% edge. So sorry, Packers. Doesn't look like the model believes in you here. It will be picking the Lions to win and will be taking the money line for the Lions as it has found an edge. I don't necessarily disagree. Like, I don't think this one... So this is one where I might pick. Again, there's going to be a difference between picks and bets. Picks are, if I am forced to choose, this is who I would go for. However, my confidence might not be high enough for it to become an actual bet. So make sure to know the distinctions there. There are separate tabs here on the website for bets and picks. So just a heads up there. My pick might be the Packers here, especially if Aaron Jones is back. But bet-wise, I'm not confident enough, nor do I feel the need to put in a hedge bet here, most likely. Things can change. I'm recording this on September 27th, Wednesday, so pay attention to the website to see what actual bets we lock in. Next matchup, the London game. It feels like Jacksonville always plays in London. I guess there's been talks about them actually moving over there at some point. That would be annoying, honestly. But the Falcons 2-1 take on the 1-2 Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville 3-point, technically home favorites, I guess, even though they're in London. They are designated as a home team. For the money line, my script has found them at -150 for the best odds, +143 for the Falcons, over under of 43.5, so pretty low here. The model has the Falcons winning and has an edge on them, so it is giving a 30.665% edge to the Falcons here, and they also expect them to win. Statistically, that makes sense. Even though the Falcons didn't look great against Detroit, the Jags haven't looked very good either. I don't know what is going on with Trevor Lawrence. I have him on one of my dynasty teams, and it has just been disappointment after disappointment. Once Richardson's healed up, he goes right back in my lineup over Trevor. But statistically that makes sense. Again, I don't know how much I'm going to go against the model here. I like Jacksonville better, just as a team, as a whole. But the model likes him here. Model has been doing well enough that I'm just kind of trusting him here. So the model will be betting on the Falcons to win as a pick, and will be betting on their money line at plus 143. The highest scoring game of the week, the Miami Dolphins go to Buffalo to take on the Bills in this divisional matchup. Over under of 54. And you know me, I like to take the unders on these higher line games. Buffalo, 2.5 point home favorites, which is a little surprising to me. Yes, Dolphins are 3-0. Usually when you see Buffalo in any line, they're always like a touchdown favorite or more. Here, the Dolphins have looked fantastic. Obviously, they almost tied the record for most points put up by a team since like 1966 or something like that. But I don't know when you're ever going to get the Bills this low on the spread. So that's where my mind is going. The model does predict the Bills to win, a 60.681% chance of winning, and a slight edge, only a 2.004% edge. But that does mean that at least at this price of minus 142, and it's plus 135 for the Dolphins, the model will be betting on Buffalo. So yeah, I think I do agree with that. I think this is the first time until October 22nd when the Bills play the Eagles that you're gonna find the money line paying out this much for Buffalo. That doesn't happen often. So that is what we will go with here. And we talk about a great matchup. Now we have a horrible matchup. Are these the only 0-3 teams? I think these are... No. Oh, God. Okay, so 4 winless teams left: Denver, Chicago, Minnesota, Carolina. After this week, there will only be 2 because they're playing each other. I don't know how the NFL script ended up like that, but here we are. The 0-3 Denver Broncos, who just got whooped. Love seeing it. Love watching Russ lose, and then Sean Payton looking like a dummy. I don't know, man. I talked about it so early on in when Russ came to Denver. I'm like, that's not going to fix anything. And then they bring in Sean Payton. I'm like, that's not going to fix anything. And the whole world's like, oh yeah, we get a good coach. I'm like, amazing. You have a good coach, I guess you can call him that. But who's your fucking quarterback still? It's Russ. It's not going to go well. And across the sidelines there, you have the Bears with Justin Fields, who since the day he was drafted, I said he's not going to be good. Again, I understand for fantasy purposes, but like I said last week, he's not even performing for that anymore. He'll have some boom games eventually, but he's not getting a second contract to be a starter, that is. And I don't know what it is. It just doesn't happen for Ohio State quarterbacks. Yes, I 100% have some bias in there as a Penn State alumni, but man, these are just facts, and that's all I do is show these facts. So someone has to win this game. The model has it almost dead even, giving the Bears a 50.622% win probability. The Broncos a 49.378% win probability. Good job, model, not letting the Broncos win. I'd rather have the Bears win too. But what's important is the model found an edge on the Bears at plus 155. The Broncos are currently at minus 159. 11.407% edge. And I agree with them. I'll take the Bears to win. Obviously, I'm going to do that anyways because the model picked it. But I'm also going to take Chicago to cover the 3.5 point spread because I think they just straight up win the game. Over under a 46, which is pretty damn low, and that under looks nice for this as well. I think it was Sunday night, maybe Monday during the day. I looked real quick, and it's looking a lot like last year with the over-under, where the under has hit like 60% of the time. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Where are we at? Under. So this was before the 2 Monday night games. there were 16 overs and 30 unders so far this season. I believe add one more over and add one more under. So 17 overs, 31 unders this season. So pretty wild, looking very much like how it was last season, where the unders are just the right bet. Divisional matchup, 2-1 Ravens take on the 2-1 Browns. Cleveland favored in this game. They are minus 3 point home favorites. And let's see what we got for the best line on the money line. Minus 145, plus 130 for the Ravens. Insanely low over under a 40.5. Now, these divisional matchups, I get it. Ravens are a bit banged up in the running game. Cleveland's defense has looked pretty damn good. I understand. I understand the under. This is one I'm going to have to take a look at a bit more, and we'll see where I end up. So keep an eye on the website and check out where we land here, if anything. The model found an edge for the Browns, 8.98% edge at minus 145. That's what the model will be taking. That hurts for me to be taking the Browns. I hate the Browns. As far as all of the Steelers division rivals, I think I hate the Browns the most. They're just annoying as a team. I think I used to hate Cincy more because they were just dirty with what the hell's his name? Vontez Perfect. He was just scumbag, Pac-Man, dirtball, and it was always funny kind of watching themselves shoot themselves in the foot. Anyways, I don't need to get too much into what I think about that. The important thing is the model's taking the Browns to win and has an edge, so they will be taking the money line. Bengals 1-2. They squeak out a win on Monday night, taking on the 1-2 Titans. Bengals minus 2.5 point away favorites. Over under of just 41 points. I think I like the over here. I also think I like the Bengals to cover. For the model, they think, what do you think, model? Scroll. There we go. The model gives the Bengals a 56.522% win probability and an edge at minus 130 of 27.997%. So the model taking the Bengals, I agree with that. Also want to be taking that 2.5 point spread. That just feels correct. Titans have not looked good. Not sure what's going on with Derrick Henry, and Ryan Tannehill can't throw a football. But he's still starting because Will Levis is, I guess, way worse. Los Angeles taking on the Indianapolis Colts. It's currently a pick'em between the Rams and the Colts, which is shocking to me. Not sure if Richardson's coming back. Keep an eye on that. I think he should be back. But keep an eye on the injury reports, the practice reports to ensure that. I think the Rams bounce back here. If this was me and I was picking, that's who I would go with. The Colts are an easy fade for myself. The model, let's see if the model thinks the same way I do. They do. The model gives the Rams a 73.462% win chance at even money. That gives them a 23.462% edge. I completely agree with all of that. Even money for the Rams against the Colts. Who have the Colts beat? I don't know. They beat Baltimore, I guess, last week. Yeah, Baltimore and Houston. And the model bet Colts last week, too, to beat the Ravens. So interesting here that they flip it to bet on the team that just lost versus a team that won. That's the other thing that I should state. The model doesn't really care if they win or lose. And that sounds very counterintuitive, but those are not the metrics that are being fed into it. Yes, that's what we test against because that's what we're trying to predict is a win. So that's our Y variable. But it's not taking into account a record, number of wins, anything like that when trying to predict a game. It is more focused on other statistics, turnovers, yards, rush yards, pass yards, penalties. That's what is put into the model for it to make its predictions, not so much a win. So that's why I think that's good. I think that's a good thing to think about, or rather to not think about. As humans, we like to see things that aren't there. We're like, oh, this team's heating up. They've won 3 in a row. That means they're on a hot streak. There's a fallacy in that, where that's not a real thing. Yes, maybe in our minds it can feel like that is, because that's what we want to see. Machines aren't like that. Computers aren't like that. They only see numbers, logic, and that's what's fed into here. So I think that's a good thing to exclude from the model here, and that's what's happening here, and why the model is not more in on the Colts here, who just won a game against a good opponent, than a Rams team who lost to a struggling Bengals game. Everything's independent. Cool. So with that, hopefully explained a little bit with the model here. Rams to win, cover. And then over under 46.5, that's a tough one. That feels like an under to me, just because of how the Rams looked on Monday. And then the Colts, do they score a lot? They've scored 22 and 31. That's a decently high. The 22, obviously, against the Ravens is more impressive than putting 31 up against Houston. But it takes 2 to tango for these overs. And like I said, the unders have been the right bet. So until proven otherwise, I think that's the way I lean. 2-1 Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on their division rivals, the New Orleans Saints, who are also at 2-1. So important matchup here for these teams. These two are probably the one who are fighting to win the division. Buccaneers coming off of a loss. The Saints lost Derek Carr and lost to Green Bay. So both of them looking to bounce back here. Currently, New Orleans, with Jameis Winston leading the team, are 3.5-point home favorites. Low over-under of 40.5. That feels like an over to me. Jameis is going to sling it like he always does, which means interceptions, which means a lot more throwing, and hopefully a lot more scoring. So that'll be interesting to see. The model here is going to be taking the Saints, 89.342% win probability, and giving them a 27.51% edge at minus 162 on the money line. The Bucks are currently plus 150. I think it's going to come down to the Saints defense shutting down Tampa Bay if they can, much like the Eagles did. The Eagles probably, well, maybe not even probably. Eagles have a better defense than the Saints, in my mind, but the Saints defense is still pretty solid. So it's going to come down to Baker and the crew to put up the points. And if I can bet against Baker Mayfield, I'm going to do it. I always forget that they're in the same division, but the 2-1 Washington Commanders take on the 3-0 Philadelphia Eagles. Philly, 8.5-point home favorites, 43.5 over-under. So the model found an edge for the Eagles, 18.45% edge at minus 370, but with the logic that is in place for if we take a bet or not, we're not taking anything less than, anything less than minus 200. That minus 370 is not worth the risk. There's not enough return for us. So while the model did find an edge here, we are not taking that bet. Feel free to if you like, but here for the pod, we're not taking that bet. However, the minus 8.5, that sounds good to me. I'm pretty sure I'll be taking that one. But yet again, I lock in my bets. I put in the models bets right after we finish the show here, and then I put in my bets usually Saturday, or if I feel super confident, I'll put them in earlier. Usually I wait, get as much information as possible gathered, and make my decisions then. The other two winless teams here, the Minnesota Vikings take on the Carolina Panthers. I think Bryce Young is gonna be back. That's what it's looking like. Again, pay attention to the injury report if you care. You know, you might just not care. I don't really think it matters who is quarterback here for the Panthers. I'm with the Vikings pretty much all the way. The -4 looks good as well for me. We know the Vikings have a high-powered offense. Their defense is just struggling, but I don't think they're struggling as much as the Panthers are. The Vikings have just had at least 2 hard matchups and then a close game and loss to Tampa Bay week 1. Just haven't been able to get it back since then. They're putting up points. So with that said, the model is taking the Vikings at -180. Only a small edge, 3.497%. But that's also paired with, they believe there's a 67.782% win probability for the Vikings. And I think that's completely fair. So looking at it right now, I would be taking Vikings to win, which we are because the model said so. The Vikings -4. And then the 45.5 is tough. I think I lean to the over. Just because I think the Vikings could put up 30 themselves, and then you just need, 2 touchdowns and a field goal for the Carolina Panthers for them to hit that over. I think they can do that. Vikings defense isn't that good, but who knows? Been proven wrong multiple times. Oh boy. Here we go. All right, 2-1 Steelers. That feels good to say after a horrible start. Also, 2 very squeaky wins. They didn't look great against the Raiders, but the Raiders make everyone kind of look better. But the Steelers travel to Houston to take on the Texans at 1-2, coming off a big win last week. I'm rolling with my boys, the Pittsburgh Steelers, at -150. Or can I get them something better? -144. All right, that's slightly better. Over under 42.5. Man, my heart tells me under because the Steelers just can't score. It's just how we are. It always is. But I also know that this is a game that the Steelers can easily lose. That's what we do. We play down to our opponent, which is why I don't feel horrible about the model picking the Texans to not only win, but does find a 26.079% edge at +132. So the model will be taking the Texans. I will be hedging that bet and taking the Steelers at -150. Obviously, that's probably a homer thing. So you don't have to follow anything I tell you or the model tells you. You live your life. You do what you want to do. It's that Ted Lasso meme. You do what you want. I fully believe that. Myself, I'm hedging here out of stupid pride. I was born in Pittsburgh. I bleed black and gold. I gotta support my dudes. So here we are. This would be fun to go to. Houston's not too far away from me, but no, I'll probably be a bum and stay home. But model will be taking Houston on the money line for this one. Vegas Raiders at 1-2 against the Chargers, also 1-2. Chargers 5.5 point home favorites. I think I'd take that. That sounds good to me. Over under a 48.5. That's sounding like an under. The Raiders, their whole offense is just Devontae Adams at the moment. For the model, I really hope the model's not taking the Raiders. They are. So model will be taking the Raiders at +210 because they have an edge of 17.785%. And not only that, the model is giving the Raiders a 50.043, so just barely over half win probability, which I don't agree with. What is the line at? -220. So yeah, so that's outside of my range here to take a hedge. So we're going to let it ride here with the model and hope for the best. Man, the thing is, the best is to win money. That's what I care about, right? But I also just want the Chargers to do well. I really like that team, and it just feels like they shoot themselves in the foot. So I'll be happy either way, win or lose. It's a good way to look at it, right? New England traveling to Dallas to take on the Cowboys after their big loss to the Cardinals. Cowboys 7-point home favorites, over under of 43 points. That seems a little low. The money lines for each team, minus 278 for the Cowboys, plus 263 for the Patriots. You know the model's going to love that juiced up line at plus 263. Giving this might, I think this is the highest edge for the week. Let me confirm. Yes, it is. Giving the Patriots an edge of 66.502% at plus 263. So that's what the model's taking. Minus 278 is not good enough for me to take a hedge, nor do I think I would do it anyways. Let's let it go. Let's keep killing these Cowboys and get some more money out of them. The Cardinals have exposed them. If the Cardinals can do it, Bill Belichick can do it. That's how I see it. Over under a 43. Yeah, like I said, that feels low. Likely going over there. Keep an eye on the website. The big team in the room, the Arizona Cardinals, 1-2, biggest win out of anyone this season so far, taking on another undefeated team in the 49ers. Can they do what they did to the Cowboys? Probably not, but it's fun to think that way, right? So over under a 44. That will depend mostly on the 49ers defense, right? They have allowed 7 points to the Steelers, 23 to the Rams, and 12 to the Giants. So, the Niners defense is shutting people down. But then again, that's the same thing we said about the Cowboys defense, and then the Cardinals came out and put 28 points on them. So, that is a very good question. I got to sit on that one a little bit. However, there's no way I'm taking the San Francisco 49ers money line, because that thing is absolutely absurd at minus 833. And the model, of course, loves the plus 650 for the Arizona Cardinals, giving them a 43.836% edge. I believe that's the second highest. Yes, it is. Really, it feels like anytime there's a massive underdog, the models will be like, yeah, give me that. Because there's always a chance, right? We've seen it time and time again, mostly this past week. And here we are going for it again. Minus 14 is a tough one, man. Minus 14. That's one to look into as well. When it's big digits like that, I tend to enjoy taking the dogs. But let's do what we did last week when we looked up that super low, 36.5 point over under, and it was like 60% the under. Let's go for that. Let's I'm gonna look up that data real quick for teams that are minus 14 or larger to see if they cover or not. So I'm gonna take a second here, look that up. All right. So look back since 2017, there have been 56 games where a team is minus 14 or more as a favorite. There's been one push, 27 covered. I'm just taking out the push in general. 27 out of the 55 covered, so basically 51% covered. That isn't much here, so maybe this is one I just stay away from. There you go. There's your data. Sunday Night Football, Kansas City. This was going to be a fun matchup until Aaron Rodgers got hurt. But the 2-1 Chiefs take on the 1-2 Jets. The Jets are 9.5 point home underdogs, over under of 42.5. That sticks out as a little low, but I think Kansas City can just score a lot of that on their own. But Kansas City on the money line, that's not one myself or the model will take. I'm pretty sure the model is going to want the Jets. No. Wow. If you need any more evidence that the Jets are just completely significantly statistically poor, the model is only giving them a 4.558% win chance. Even at plus 390, it couldn't find an edge. It still has an edge for the Kansas City Chiefs at minus 410. But like I said, that is out of our range for where we are comfortable taking bets, so we won't be taking that one. It's just wild that's even a thing. So, if you got I don't know, if you do like a weekly pick'em thing, pick the Chiefs. I'm not that like you weren't before, but you know, the model's not even finding an edge to bet that big of an underdog in this matchup. So good job, Zach. That's on you, buddy. Finally, we get a single Monday Night Football game. The 2-1 Seattle Seahawks take on the 1-2 New York Giants. Doesn't sound like Barkley is going to be coming back this game, which is a shame. Over under a 47.5. Giants currently a point favorite at home. So the model finds, I think I agree with it. The model found an edge for Seattle, 35.934% at minus 105, also giving them an 87.154% win probability. So I think I'm right in line of agreement there with the model. Seattle should win this game. That's really all there is to say. The over-under, I don't think they're going to need to score that much, but Seattle's defense isn't that great, so maybe it does turn into, some sort of back and forth here, especially when Vegas only has it as like a point spread. That's a good indication that they expect it to be pretty back and forth. So with that said, the over is possible. I think the over has hit the past 2 games for Seattle. The under hit for the Giants last week. That's because they played San Francisco and just got completely shut out. They hit the over against the Cardinals. I think I lean towards the over here just because I don't think either defense is very good. So this might just be a fun one for fantasy purposes as well. You get your DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Should be a good game finally for Geno here as well. For the Giants, I find it might be tough to play any of them. You should be able to play Daniel Jones. Maybe he runs the ball a good bit. But as a whole, it's been tough to play any of them. What's his name? I wanted to say Mostert. I know that's not Matt Breida. They were both 49ers at one point. Matt Breida backing up Barkley. He saved his fantasy week with a touchdown. Maybe he can do more here against a less savvy defense, but it's tough. You probably want to find other options. But that will do it here. That is all the matchups here for week 4. Best of luck to you in betting, in fantasy, and DFS. I'll shoot out my free lineup here Saturday or Sunday morning. I apologize, I don't have like an actual schedule for a lot of this stuff. I have other things I gotta do. But it will get out there, and you can tail it if you like. Just missed the cash line this past week, but first 2 weeks we did hit, and we're gonna keep going. Thanks, and we will see you next time.